Okay, now we need to get on to the next thing. So you guys seen in the last video, the wire breezeway center console program, that's all welded up and ready to go. Now I wanted to put the rear sheet metal in next and bead roll it, get it all in, and then I was like, the way I wanted it to connect, I was like, wait, I need to go over here first to make this piece. So I decided to wait a couple days on that and go in and finish up the firewall on the passenger side. This is the driver's side and the driver's side floor. So we need to get the passenger side floor to look like this one. And I have a cool aluminum box that sits down around the exhaust. It's sitting down on the ground down there. So we need to do the same thing on that side. So that way we can build sheet metal that cruises underneath the seats, and it's like roofing a house, right? So you have to think about when you take it apart. Now, fortunately, the way this rig is built, there is nothing from the firewall front to back you ever have to get to underneath. Everything's accessible from the bottom. The only thing that comes in handy on the floorboards is on this side. If you want to change the front drive shaft, there's an access panel that'll be in the floor right there. And then if you pull that side plate right there, which this material right here is AR, and it's basically a scatter shield. This is AR up here as well. So if you skated a tranny, your feet are, mostly protected. So if you pull this panel and this panel, you can access the Atlas cable shifters really nice. And then that way, if you do have to pull the tranny at a race or anything of that nature, that's really the only spot you have to access. Nothing under here needs to be accessed at all. So the floors don't come out at races. They don't come out unless you have to clean it. But sometimes you got to think of how you want to clean it, right? If you want to take the whole thing completely apart and the seats are coming out and the belts are coming out, then it doesn't really matter. But if you just want to pull the front floors so you can get down and clean the boat sides, clean the belly, and then the rest of it can reach from the back. So that's what I'm trying to do this methodically. So that way when I pull it apart, I can be like, hey, let's just pull the front floors. We don't have to pull the seats to get the front floors out. So that's my process. I don't know if it's worth it. It could be a waste of time. It could be a total waste of time. I don't know. But excuse me, that's how I would like to do it. So I found a piece of material that I'd already bent a 1-inch tail on, 90, piece of aluminum sitting right there. So I'm just gonna skinny wheel a section out of that. We'll get started on the firewall right now. Well, right out of the gate, which I thought was gonna be a super slam dunk on this side, I was gonna just do this little piece that goes in here and it matches the other side, straight across. I started thinking about longevity of this thing. I'm like, all right, there's panel on this side. Like I said, it doesn't come out. It doesn't really need to do anything, but it's always, to me, it looks kind of tacky, I guess, when you just, radius around and you tape everything up. I mean, the tape has got to be there, but the more I looked at it and thought about where that is in the chassis and where nothing goes through there, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut the coolant tubes, build an 1/8-inch panel that goes in there, run the coolant tube into the panel, TIG weld it up, and then I should be able to pull the coolant tubes out of the chassis that long ways. Should be able to grab them and there'll be a connection outside of the firewall. The hose will be right around here welded to a plate. The plate will bolt on the inside, and I should be able to just take those out, and that'll be 100% sealed legitly, and it'll actually strengthen this connection here, which is 1 bolt. So we'll spread the load into that triangle, and I think that's gonna work better. So let's start on that. Great. Now I gotta go play with Mysterious Bin. Need a couple of hose clamps, need a couple of fittings. Gotta get some parts out of this bin, which, oh, look at that. I guessed right. Just need some pieces to put the intake and stuff back on. I cannot wait until these bins are done, emptied, and the only thing sitting up there is nothing. So some of this stuff apparently Tucker didn't clean, because I thought when we took this Jeep apart we cleaned everything, but I guess we missed a couple things. So get all the stuff cleaned up, then I can put the intake back on, put a couple other pieces back on. I'll explain why here shortly. Okay, so the reasoning for putting this stuff back in is this whole rig is tight on clearance. Right, you can see those would actually touch right there. And these have clamps that bolt in a certain way. There's a spacer that goes in down here. So that actually bolts right there with a spacer. And then that sets that there. This actually needs to roll this way. So all of the coolant tubes have to clear the air intake tube, make sure everything's perfect, and bolt it to the engine, bolt it to the firewall where it goes all the way to here before we make that adjustment. That's why this stuff takes so long, especially putting it back together. Should have just put it back together the way it was. No, wouldn't have been happy doing that. So we're gonna do this. Got the coolant tubes cut. They were there, now they're out of the way. And I went ahead and got the first piece that runs up the side of the chassis right here. I went ahead and got it tacked in. Now, these get these little tabs that we make, little quarter 20 nuts in them, and they gotta go way up in there. So what I gotta do now is I'm gonna pull this floor out, get some weld on both sides of that, and then put it back in, put these tabs on the bottom, trace them, pull the floor out, drill them, tack them into the chassis, and then that whole floorboard right there in that area will be strong enough and nothing will move. And I already have some templates made up here, so as soon as I get the floor bolted in on both sides, we can start moving forward and get the first piece is going to be right here where the coolant tubes go through. We'll get that done. just sitting here enjoying myself, and all of a sudden I realized, man, it is sunny outside. I couldn't help but just sit there and stare into oblivion. I was like, I really should be doing something else right now. But just kept on grinding on this thing all day. Okay, so we got to make this piece here. This goes from the floor up into the firewall. So Tucker's going to draw it out. All right, so do a horizontal line, 1/2 inch.
0.5, right?
0.5.
0.5.
Okay, and then do another one with your elbow. Oh, phone's like zoomed in 10 1/4. Wow, that's weird. 10 1/4. Okay, and then do a vertical line. 13.125.
Point what?
125.
2.5?
Yeah, it's 1/8 inch. Add that.
Okay.
Okay, now go up and hit File Save. We're gonna save this as.
Oh, file save as?
Oh wait, stop. Did you literally just save that?
Yeah.
Scroll out. Oh, phew, still there. Okay. It can be saved as this. I thought you just deleted the floor.
No. So you want me to?
No, it's fine. It's all good. It can stay there. It's just the way it is. All right, so we'll finish drawing this out, get all the measurements in, and then we'll get that piece transferred to there, get it cut out, and we're planning tonight. Our goal is to get that piece cut, get it in, and that way we can have the floor, the kicker, and the start of the footwell fully done today. Or not fully done, but in. There's supposed to be a big storm that's coming, so we gotta go before the windstorm gets here. So let's hurry. So go and export that.
File, export.
No, scroll out. You can do it that way too.
Did you create a path?
Yeah, it's all ready to go.
Okay, file, export.
No, see a little icon right there?
This does the same thing, doesn't
It does do the same thing. It just takes longer.
We'll do it.
R. Yes. Close G code.
Yeah.
No, I gotta go up to file.
File, close G code.
Yep, close G code.
There. Got it.
Yep, then file. Import. Yep, good. Yes. Yes. Okay, go to jog. Bring her south. Dude, it is flipping raining outside.
Cats and dogs.
Cats and dogs. Okay, and then.
Oh, wait, I remember. Program set.
Hold on, no.
No?
No, you are remembering. You're doing the right thing. Yes,
Okay, what
but
do I do?
make sure it's jog all the way to the left first. Yep, you're good. Okay, set 0.
0 all.
Yep. Okay, good memory.
G code start.
Yeah, go and
Or
start.
Space.
Hit start.
Oh, I stopped it just to make sure.
If you need to stop it, you hit any key on the keyboard. Gave up the ghost. That's a good sign to getting close to being done for the day. He gone. Passenger side floor is going good. So now we just got to do a bunch of cleaning and radiusing and just getting everything tight. So we got to go in here and remove some of this. And then this piece will go, I wonder if I can do this here. Like that. So we got to drill through here in a couple spots. This panel will get nut certs, and the ultimate goal is when you pull the floor, the firewall stays in, and if you need to get the firewall out, obviously you got to pull the floor, but we want to be able to get the floor out, so that's why that goes underneath. So we got to go in, carbide the back side of this, work this into the firewall, and put a couple nut cert tabs in, and we'll be pretty close after we get this drilled and nut certed. I think we can attach this to the coolant tube, and then we're going to stop right there, weld our coolant tubes into the panel that goes right here, and then work our way up. Yeah. So I feel like I'm kicking butt, everything's going good, and I start putting my floor panels back in. I'm like, man, something's not jiving. I pre-drilled all the holes, and this is where I noticed, I'm like, wait a minute. I put that thing in, drilled the holes before I had the front firewall shoved all the way forward. So I ended up having to, yeah, you'll just see right here. Alright, so I'm going to weld these up and re-drill them. Yep, that's the fix. Okay, so here's what's going on now. You could oblong the holes, you can make them bigger, you could do all that. This panel can slide forward, and then you can see in there it's going to have a gap. And I don't necessarily want that, because this piece can't go any farther forward because there's a return on the scatter shield right here. So it sits up there against that tube, and it's touching at the top. So you can see down at the bottom down here where it's touching, and then down here it's not. So my mistake. I'll fix it. So I talk a lot about backers and welding aluminum. This is another scenario where you can use a backer, but it's a little different. And I know a lot of guys already know this stuff, but I know there's some people on there that don't. So we're gonna back it, but we're not gonna use aluminum, we're gonna use stainless, because if we use aluminum, the block's just gonna stick to our part, right? So I got a stainless steel block there. You can use mild steel, you can use copper, something that won't stick. I mean, it'll stick a little bit, but it's not gonna weld to it. Got one the same thickness right here. Just slide under there for a little supportage. Nothing fancy here. You're literally just filling a hole with rod, heat it up, melt it in there, and then basically flip it over and do the same thing to the other side. Now, you could just take the measurement, the thickness of the material that we removed off this, and just move that hole back. But the way today's gone, probably not going to do that. I think I'm just going to pull that out of the panel, trace it, and then we know it fits. Obviously, you can't slide the piece around and do what you needed to do originally because now it has nutserts in it, so we have to put it together as if it was in there. Like that. Then we got to clamp that up because we have to trace down through the nutsert. I don't know. I think I've showed you guys this before, but if not, when you buy these Empire sliding T-squares, they have a scribe in the back. Pretty sure I've mentioned that a couple times, but works perfect for going down in little small areas like this and transferring holes. I have transfer punches too, but using them on this particular project with it in the vise like this wouldn't be that good. Alright, let's put it back in and see if we have a good fix. Okay, we need to transfer the holes from the, see if I can get up in there. Maybe, maybe not. See that nutsert? Woo, jeez. See those nutserts right there? So we got to get those transferred into the new aluminum. And the only way to get in there is a scribe and a pair of vice grips. Huh. Fancy me this. There's our scribed lines. Maybe you can see them on here. There we go. So we just need to drill those, then we can bolt this panel into that panel. And I kind of got ahead of myself again. I've been doing that a lot lately. It's just there's a lot going on and a lot to remember. I can't put the coolant tubes in there yet because they're just going to be in my way, even though that panel comes out, but I have to build the brackets to bolt everything up. So we'll get this drilled, get it bolted in. I think we're going to make the back half of the floor probably all the brakes we need and get all those pieces connected. That way I don't need the coolant tube panel in there anymore, and I can pull the coolant tubes in that panel out and we can go on to the next step. So drill some holes, finish up some of the stuff on the bottom, then we can keep moving forward. We're cruising, just we're gonna call it a day there. And I know it makes no difference saying that on a YouTube video, but it just feels more personal, I guess. So got everything on the lower side in, and I went ahead and final welded it. So now we need to build upwards, and there's going to be a piece of steel that goes in, like some 16 gauge right here, that connects this to the chassis out, and then that's what the front of the firewall will go on. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that next or if I'm going to put this piece in next. I think I would like to get this piece in here and done, and then get the plate built for this. So just that way the whole floor is done, and then we can go up or back or whatever. So pretty stoked how this is turning out. And I was thinking about it, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do this on social media or on YouTube, but I like giving stuff away. It'd be fun to guess how many nutserts are in this build. It's a lot. So that'd be a cool thing to do. Maybe get a free hat or something so somebody could guess it, but we'll see. I might do it on here, and I might do it on Facebook. We'll see. All right, we're back on this thing, and I went ahead and pulled the center firewall section out, and I need to get the metal piece made that goes in here. We'll do some 16 gauge, break it. It's gonna weld into this tube over here, this tube over here. You can't really see the other one over there. Oh, maybe. Just like that. And then what I'm going to try to do is go back into the computer and find when I made this originally. And I should be able to find this bracket, put that grid into the new aluminum plate so the air filter mount mounts to it. We're just going to run straight down, over. We're going to put a little kicker, kind of like this in it, back up. There'll be a TIG welded seam right there. And then basically from here down and over to the front tie-in bar right there is all gonna be one piece. I hope. Let's try. I did find that old drawing. So this was the original firewall here in some pieces. What we wanna do is basically make a new piece that is not tapered down like this. We basically want to make a rectangle. So we need to take the combination of this drawing here, this one over here, put it in a square box, cut out a square box, and then this angle right here is what we'll have to cut by hand. And then we're going to TIG weld another triangle from here to there, and it'll go back like towards the seating area. Now, as far as width goes, see if we can pull. All right, so 15 1/4. So that's cool. That's gonna be the same as it was. And then I think it's 8 inches from there up. So we need to measure from the end of this part in here, put a couple center lines in, so that way when we're moving stuff back and forth in CAD, we know that the panel that is going to mount here has those holes in it. It's not going to be like offset to one side or offset this way. So those measurements we just took, we know we're dialed. So we're going to need to take a box. So if we measure this is the piece that's welded into the Jeep and steel right now. 15 1/4. So we need to make this piece 15 1/4. And I need it 8 inches tall. So there's 8. Okay, so now that box right here, this is going to be the new piece of aluminum. So let's kind of clean our screen up here a little bit. What's half of 15? 7.5. But, 15 1/4. So we need to change that. Let's see, half of 15 is 7.5. So we need to go to 7.65. And I just, oops. All right, this is kind of hard to do while holding the camera and talk and think, so let's delete all those. Put a new one in there, 7.625. All right, now we're cooking. Drag this guy down in here. So now we know that this box is centered in this line. This piece, oops, prematurely flip that guy. Okay, there we go. Now we want our new piece of aluminum to be flushed out with the new box we're making, or new panel I should say. There, now those bolt holes all the way around will transfer into that sheet, but we need the hole in there as well. So there's this flange over here that I made. This flange is actually the piece that has the 3-inch tube welded into it. So if I was to break this all apart, I could pull that circle out and we could use that inner circle. Or we can take this grid here, break it apart, and we could take it and move it down here. So we gotta make a path. There we go. So now this, anywhere you click on this, it's gonna light up. All right, so I'm gonna mess around with this a little bit. I gotta get that hole in there, and then we'll cut it out, start trimming it, and do some TIG welding. I'm gonna take it straight from the table, straight over to the Jeep, and we'll see what we need to do. I should have wiped it down at least, but oh well. Okay, so I need to trim a little bit right there around that tube, and you can see it'll move over. So this piece is gonna work just fine. I'll get it cleaned up, get the other piece cut, get it welded. We'll be on to the next part. Getting down there on parts too. There's only 1, 2, 3, I think there's only 4 pieces left of the firewall and the exhaust box on that, on the passenger side. And basically then from the cowling down to the seats, we're dialed. We'll be moving into some thin sheet metal, doing some bead rolling and some braking. But anyway, that's coming up. So this piece fits perfect, just how it's supposed to. Went through, cleaned the holes up on the inside. And as I was getting ready to make the metal part that goes behind it, I thought, something's missing. And it's because I forgot to put the oval hole accents down in there. Can't be having it not match. That's why this build takes so long. I think you can see it on. I can't remember which one it is. You can see them in the metal bracket there. Am I missing something? Am I not supposed to put them in there? Oh, nope, there's some right there. See those? Nobody would ever know unless I said something. So I'm gonna try to put that piece back on the table, draw them, put them in there, cut them out. It's gotta have them. I mean, it's all part of the, if I was just building something that I didn't care about, I wouldn't care. But I do care, and I want it to look good. So I'm gonna try to put that piece back in exactly where it was and put at least 3 little ovals in there so it matches. Yeah, it's gotta match. So we have the front piece in, the side piece in. So I wanted to show you guys a little tip when you're making a complex little bracket. So we're gonna make a piece of 16 gauge that runs across there, right? Well, 2 brakes on, it's got a brake here, and it's gotta wrap this tube, and it's gotta do the same thing over there. So instead of trying to get your piece to like fit perfect every time, make half, make it fit, make that half fit, figure out your difference in the middle. Then when you lay this down, I tape it on my bench and measure it out and put it in the computer. You just add the 3 and 3/8 difference in the middle. Then you'll be able to draw the whole thing from one side to the other. and add a little bit. I always add an 1/8 inch on both sides. That way you can just sit there and fine tune it with a flak wheel. So we'll get that built, get it MIG welded in, and onto the next piece. Before I get onto the next piece, my wife comes in, she's like, hey, will you help me pull this tree out? Like, I thought you already got the tree out. They had started digging on this thing at like 9 in the morning. This is like 5 in the afternoon. Like, we've been digging on it all day. We tried pulling it with a Jeep, we couldn't get it out. I was like, all right. So went out there and did the old fulcrum and levers trick, and voila, maple tree, ejectocito, cuz. Alright, well I got a little sidetracked, had to rip a maple tree out for my wife. And I did have this piece made, but I'm going to have to cheat a little bit. So it was all bent, and the tolerances just weren't allowing it to go where it needed to go. So we just cut it in half. We're going to throw some nutserts in. Tucker's going to get that plate drilled up, and then we'll put that back in the chassis. We got to make a piece that TIG welds all the way across the top, get it bolted in, and then just keep moving forward. I'll remove the weld. It'll look bent. All right, that metal piece is all TIG welded up, sanded, done. All those pieces that you see in the frame are finished. They just need to get wrapped with the heat tape. And then the next thing I'll do is I gotta do the box for the exhaust. I gotta do the drive line access, and then I gotta put this little kicker back here. And I'm gonna save that for the next video. So appreciate you guys following along. We're definitely not professionals, but we know enough to do it wrong. We'll see ya.